God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Or at least God's wife will get you.
God's wife will get... Who would be God's wife?
That's a good question.
Carol Kane.
Carol Kane.
I'll say Carol Kane is God's wife.
Okay.
Don't ask me why I said Carol Kane. It just sounded appropriate at the time.
I refuse to ask. I will ask, who are we, though?
We are Catt and Toni Homeperm.
Oh, thank goodness.
I'm glad I was able to tell you.
I didn't know for a minute. I wasn't sure.
Well, then you know something. We'll have to make sure that your will is already all taken care of, and there's no trustees for you that you need
let's
to worry
hope
about.
not, yes.
So today we are at episode 35, and we are discussing season 2, episode 11, The Will.
The Will.
Which originally aired November 27th, 1973. Mm-hmm. It was directed by Hal Cooper. Mm-hmm. The teleplay was written by Albert E. Lewin, and the episode was written by Leonard B. Kaufman. And the guest stars are Fred Grandy comes back as Chris, that's Gopher from the Love Boat. We have Louis Gus, who reprises his role as the laundromat cleaner. And they just throw Louis Gus in just for character acting, I think, at this point.
How many times has that man gotten thrown out of the Findley's house?
True.
And he keeps coming back.
Yeah. So we have Cecil Reddick as Mr. Hauser, and we have a couple of small incendiary characters that just are not of ill importance.
Extraneous characters. So we open. We're in the kitchen. Florida.
And people are frantic. Everybody is frantic.
Florida is madly ironing.
Yes.
And doing a dance. And Walter comes in. He's looking for
his tie and studs.
His
tie and studs.
Yes.
And he is pleading with Florida to tell him where it is, what's going on.
Right.
And again, Florida is doing this dance.
Yes.
And
because there was something she needed to do
20 minutes prior.
And she has not done it, and she's not dancing because she's got natural rhythm.
She had to pee.
She
just had to pee.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, Walter goes out into the kitchen, and Florida's still ironing. He's in the kitchen.
He's been in the kitchen.
He goes from the kitchen to the living room.
Yes.
And Florida, exits
the kitchen.
Florida exits the kitchen, and she's
trying
to go to the bathroom.
To
And everybody and their mother stops her. Vivian's asking if there's more black coffee. Walter is frantically asking where his styes in his eyes.
The styes in his eyes. No, his
studs and ties.
Studs and ties, pussycat.
Where his studs and ties are, and I think Carol was asking where the dry cleaning was, I think, and Maude called down where the cleaners are.
Yes,
did the cleaners call, or did you call the cleaners?
Because as we found out in this, Maude and Walter are getting an award.
The husband and wife of the year.
Award.
They're getting the husband and wife of the year award.
Yes. So it's a very important
very prestigious award.
Yes.
And, everyone is frantically talking to Florida, and Florida screams at everybody. Now, wait a minute. Now, if you want to reread the Emancipation Proclamation, it's out there, printed on the back of a box of Quaker Oats.
That's right.
Was it printed on the box of Quaker Oats?
It might have been. It might have been, because the Quakers did help run the Underground Railroad.
Interesting. I learned about that in history. You would think I would have remembered that.
I know you would.
But this was also years ago, and I learned a very whitewashed history of slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation.
It's more important to know, lines from the Golden Girls and Maude than it is to know.
Leave me alone! Stop judging me.
World history.
Stop judging me. How dare you?
Would I judge you?
Yes. Yes, you would. So Florida runs to whatchamacallit. Florida runs to the bathroom, and I think at that point Maude comes downstairs holding two outfits. That's oh no, Grace calls.
Yes, Grace. Yes, and that's
Grace
a recurring
calls. That is a recurring joke
through this episode.
Joke.
That Grace is calling Maude to.
What was the name? Chubby.
Oh, I don't
Chubby
remember
Briggs, Chubby Biggs.
I don't remember the last
Chubby
name. I don't
Briggs.
remember the last name, but
Part of me wants to say Chubby Checker.
Yeah, right?
But it's not Chubby
Grace's
Checker.
husband, Chubby, as we find out, he has passed away.
Yep.
And he has left Grace
In a bind.
In a big bind because of the will that he had written,
Yep.
which, as we come to find out, he has put a trustee in charge of the will, not Grace.
Yeah.
And so Grace has no control over her own life now because they're, everything that they built together in their lives and financially, she no longer has a say in.
Yes.
And that's
correct.
Yes.
And that's bad.
And that's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing.
Yes.
This episode deals very heavily with women's liberation and the Equality Rights Act, which was the amendment that was passed in, 8 states? Or how many states was it at the time?
They had, it was like 30-something, and they needed about 8.
They needed about 8 more states, and it'll be the law of the land.
Yes.
So we'll get to that in just a moment.
Yes.
So we have the I Know Grace, and I know Grace is just the running gag where...
Yes.
Like, Maude will answer the phone and say, I know Grace. I know Grace. I know Grace. And then she puts the phone down and says, I know Grace.
Yes,
I know Grace. And she has these 2 outfits in her hand, one of which was worn by Rue McClanahan as Vivian in a later episode.
Oh, really?
That green velvet.
The green one?
Green velvet with the blue. The blue. Yeah, that was worn by Vivian.
Oh, interesting. I was wondering if, they were, had been used prior or something.
You want to laugh? Anecdotal and sidebar. There was one point in time where I looked up costumes from Maude because I'm like, I was a very big fan of David Mayoko at the time, and I mean, I still love and adore David Mayoko. David Mayoko is a very famous Liberace impersonator.
Yes, he was in the Netflix movie Army of the Dead.
Where he played Liberace.
He
played Liberace.
And he's been a guest of mine on Talking Tony
and Naughty or Nice. So David Mayoko is a lovely, charming human being who actually owns some of Lee's Liberace's costumes.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of want to do that too. Unfortunately, B. Arthur and myself are very much not the same size at all.
No.
So that was something that I had at the back of my mind, and I was looking, and I found the red outfit that she had in her hands.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
it was, I think, $2,000, and I'm like, I could just make that.
Yeah.
So I don't need to spend $2,000 on a costume that B. Arthur wore.
Although, think about it, that's not, it's not an outrageous.
No, not for a, it would be the same thing if you saw B. Arthur's wardrobe, or even Rue McClanahan had in her contract for Golden Girls that she would keep all of her costumes. And they whatchamacallit, they, excuse me so much. Oh my God, where did my brain's gone? My body is limp with exhaustion.
We're talking about the clothes.
Yes, the clothes that Rue McClanahan wore during Golden Girls. And when she passed, a lot of those costumes were donated and put up for auction. And a lot of those costumes sold for a great deal of money.
Oh, I'll bet. I actually, I kind of dated this guy who, he had dated this guy who was Judy Garland's chauffeur, and he had one of her dresses.
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
Did he wear it?
No. He just had it. It was extremely small. She was petite. She was very petite.
She was very petite.
Very petite. It was a very small garment.
She looked like knee high to a grasshopper to a grown adult.
Yes, but I actually touched a garment worn by Judy Garland.
Well, did you feel the power of her come inside you?
No.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Positively distressed for you.
That's okay.
So Maude is asking Vivian for her opinion
on the dress.
Advice on the dress, and Vivian's just like, and this was the episode where we sort of started to see Vivian transform into the Vivian that we begin to know and love.
Yes.
She was the writers were slowly starting to introduce her to be more insipid and a little bit more dense.
Yes.
So Vivian's just like, I think they're both so beautiful I can't choose. And Maude turns to her and goes, your taste is in your elbows.
Yeah. She did choose. She did pick one. And didn't Maude tell her it's like it was so old
This one's so old. No, that's what she said. She says, I can't decide. So Maude was just like, this one's so old, Goodwill gave it to me.
Right.
And this green dress makes me look like a lumpy snooker table.
Yes.
Because it's green velvet.
Yes.
So at that point, Maude is just like, fine, we'll worry about it when the cleaners get in. I just won't go to I'll go to the thing stark naked.
Right.
She'll go to the dinner stark naked.
And Walter, is he still asking about the
studs. Why is it when you need one, you can't find a stud around here?
Yeah.
No, that feeling also.
And I think Maude gave him I know, Walter.
Yes, she did. Because Walter asked, Walter asked, where are the studs? So Maude's like, you had them in your hands earlier this morning. Did you check your pockets? And Walter's like, did I check my pockets? Did I check my pockets? And he finds it in his pockets.
And of course they're in the pocket.
And Maude's like, that's a good boy. Now remember, before you leave, remember to visit Tinkle Tonkle Town.
Yes.
And I use that phrase all too frequently when I say, I'm going to visit Tinkle Tonkle Town.
Tinkle Tonkle Town. Is that like Urinetown?
You know, one musical I've never seen.
Me either.
I've never seen Urinetown. There's a water sports joke in there somewhere. So then Florida comes back downstairs, and Florida's like, could you tell me what you think?
Maude asks Florida.
Maude asks Florida for her opinion, and she goes, well, you know what I wear to these affairs.
Yeah.
A black dress, a tiny white apron, and a tray of hors d'oeuvres.
That's right.
And chews her lip for a little bit and moves it off to the side. Just I love when the writers made Florida give it back to Maude. Because, the only person who could really put Maude in her place
was Florida.
Yes.
And Maude accused her of being a road company
Mom's Mabley. Road company Mom's Mabley. What a voice she had. Mom's Mabley. I've heard some of her stand-up skits. She is crass. She is a crass comedian. But God, was she funny.
Okay, so I believe the doorbell rang again at that point, and it was Chris.
Yes, it was Chris, and he was, coming in to produce. He produced a very, very, very oversized.
No, first he produced the newspaper.
Oh, that's right, the newspaper where they talked about the prominent ramrod.
Yes, when I heard that.
The prominent ramrod.
The function was being held at the Ramrod room at the
Ramada Inn or the Tuckahoe Hole or something
like that.
Some type of catering hall somewhere.
But in gay culture, there have been so many bars
named Ramrod. But can you please explain to the class why that's funny, Tony? Or do you think that the kids will get it at home?
I don't know, Pussycat.
Oh, we're so slap happy.
I don't know. But,
so at that point, Maude is reading it saying the prominent couple, not the prominent ramrod, is going to be going to somewhere at the Ramrod room in Tuckahoe, New York.
And she's complaining about the cleaner. She's going to kill the cleaner because she doesn't have a dress to wear. So that's when Chris says, oh, I have something you could wear.
Yes.
And he runs back out the door.
Yes.
And that's when he grabs he comes in with this giant...
very oversized, not overproduced. What do they call it?
Retouched?
Portrait pictures.
Yes.
And it was the size of the set.
It was huge.
It was humongous.
Bigger than a refrigerator.
It had to have been about
8 feet tall?
No, not 8 feet tall. I would probably say maybe about 6 by 5. 6 by 5
like
or
that.
4. 6 by 4. I'd say 6 foot by 4 feet wide.
I would have.
Very large.
I would agree to that.
Very large
I would
portrait
agree to
because it dwarfed Maude.
Yes.
It
was big.
And she looks at it and she goes, what a nice, lovely couple we made, Walter.
Yes.
Such nice open pores.
Open pores, such a good thing to have.
I hate open pores. I want tight pores.
And Vivian makes her joke about it looking like something that would be in Wilt
Chamberlain's wallet. And she goes, oh, I made a joke. Yes. Arthur's sense of humor must be rubbing off on me. And Maude says, better on you than on us.
And of course, speaking of Arthur... That's when Arthur comes in.
And what was he wearing, Ma?
He was wearing this so 70s paisley tuxedo
What
jacket.
color was that jacket, Ma?
It was like brownish, orangey, those, 70s earth tones. I love that tuxedo jacket.
I hated that
I
tuxedo
loved
jacket.
that tuxedo jacket.
Hated that tuxedo
Loved
jacket.
it. I loved it.
I will say this, though. I did love Maude's outfit. Like, it was a very simple, like, pink crushed velvet dress over the pantsuit situation.
Very, very Maude.
Very Maude
look.
So he comes in and he, like, Maude's like, "Well, Arthur, you look lovely." And Arthur goes, "I do, don't I?"
Yeah.
Like, not, feeling himself. He's
Yes.
enjoying himself. And good for him. He deserves to feel himself every once in a while.
What did she say to him? Something about, there was something about earrings.
Oh, you had the innate, sensible, good taste to not clutter it up with a jeweled comb and a pair of earrings.
Yes. I still would have done that.
I know you would have. And you would have wore the jeweled comb
I
and
would have
earrings.
wore the earrings with the paisley jacket.
Have you ever worn as a drag queen a suit? Like a fitted suit?
No, I have like a dress that's sort of like a tuxedo dress.
See, I would wear a fitted suit.
But
that's
no,
also because
never.
I have these broad shoulders.
You do have those broad shoulders, pussycat. See, whereas I am more petite. So.
Yeah, okay. All right, whatever you say, pussycat. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Me, pussycat.
No, I
You
am pussycat
pussycat.
1. You are pussycat 2.
But we digress into Golden Girls.
We digress into Golden Girls because it's just the thing to do.
It's just the thing to do. Because you know why?
Oh yeah,
As
we
we're
lost.
recording
recording this, we lost Betty White.
We just lost Betty White.
Yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
We lost her 2 days ago.
Unbelievable.
December 31st, just weeks before her 100th birthday. But she took 2021 with her, and we're grateful.
Yes.
So, with that said,
well, now Arthur and Vivian, they're being very cutesy. Did Arthur bring her flowers?
Yes. What light through yonder window breaks? 'Tis the
they're
east,
reciting
and Juliet is the
poetry.
sun. And, well, no, that's what. 'Tis the east, and Arthur is the sun, or something to that
Yes,
effect.
something. Yes.
And she's like chuckling to herself and taking the flowers and being very cutesy ootsy. And I'm just like,
Yes.
can we gag me or something? Like,
Yes.
gag me with a spoon or some junk.
Yes, and what compares them to Bonnie and Clyde.
That was a good one.
And Arthur looks at the giant picture.
And says the same thing.
says the same thing.
Looks like something that came out of Wilt Chamberlain's wallet.
So it's
And then
like-
Vivian was like, "Oh, I said the same thing. We
yes.
must be rubbing off on each other.
Yes.
Have to be of the same mind." And that was when Maude said, "So did Bonnie and Clyde."
Exactly, yes. That's how the Bonnie and Clyde reference came up.
So,
The phone rang again.
and it was Grace.
It was Grace again.
It was I know Grace.
I know Grace.
I
So this
know
time
Grace.
she puts Florida on the phone.
Because they have a very similar timbre to their voice. They have a very similar volume to their voice. So
I don't think she even cared about that. She just figured that all Grace wanted was to hear somebody going, "I know Grace."
Yes.
And she'd be satisfied.
yes, correct.
And that's when they start discussing how the predicament that Grace is in with the will
Yep.
has really messed her up. And then Arthur he's going on about the ERA nonsense, as he puts it.
The ERA nonsense, which is the Equality Rights Act.
Equal Rights Act.
Equal Rights Act of 1973 or 1974. And it basically stated that women can make the same amount of... Walter gave the entire speech about what that was.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
Carol was just like, only 8 states left, and it's the law of the land. And all while this is happening, Maude is putting a bow tie around Walter's neck.
Well, the thing is, Arthur is saying that it's nonsense. He says, well, it's fine that a woman, if they're a secretary, they should get the same
And then
amount
Maude
of
was
pay
like,
as a male secretary.
As a male secretary. So which Maude responded with, but what about CEOs, Arthur? What about female
Executives.
CEOs, female executives?
And he says women should not be executives.
Yep.
And he's like,
Goes on to this big conservative Republican tirade that I was
Yes.
just so disgusted by, where he was just like,
Yes.
well, God, what happens if we have a female president? If she
Yeah.
has the codes, God forbid she gets a...
What if the hotline rings
And it's her time of the month.
It's her time of the month.
I
Yes.
don't like him. I don't like
Arthur is such
Arthur.
a-
Arthur
he's
is
so
a douche.
douchey. But he was
Arthur is a douche.
that's what his role was supposed to be in this.
Yep, that was his role. And Conrad Bain did play it to perfection.
Of course,
Conrad Bain did in fact play it to superb effect.
He had to. He had to be that foil for
Maude,
Maude to rail against.
And also, it's important to remember that Norman Lear did write it so that Maude had a foil, but also that we would see the hypocrisy of Maude's argument. So it was all very, it was one of the reasons why I think that Norman Lear considered Maude one of his favorite sitcoms to work on.
So while Maude is railing against Arthur, she's basically strangling Walter.
She's basically strangling poor Walter.
Put his bow tie on, and they're all trying to stop her, and you're strangling him. You're strangling him.
Yes, you're strangling him. And they're all trying to argue with him, and the more they argue, the more that and Walter is passing out because he is losing circulation.
He can't breathe.
He cannot breathe.
He can't breathe.
So he gets to the he starts falling.
And Arthur made a line. He said that the Equal Rights Amendment strikes at the heart of families. That's what
working mothers.
Yes,
because of working mothers.
Yes, exactly.
Just do less, Arthur. Do less.
Walter finally, Maude realizes that
Walter, how can I fix your tie when you're on the floor?
Yes, she finally releases the tie.
So she releases him, and I think at that point the doorbell rings.
No, at that point Florida got off the phone.
Oh, and she said Grace says goodbye.
She said goodbye. That's when the doorbell rings. This was one of those episodes where it was
everything is happening at once.
It's everything was just It's
everybody's talking at me.
This is one of those episodes where it seems like it goes so
rapid
fast.
fire, but it's one of those episodes where you just don't realize how fast.
There's so much in the whole episode.
So Maude goes to the door.
It's
Louis Gus. It's Louis Gus. He's the cleaner, and he's just $2.50 for the clean dress.
Well, he was apologizing for being late. Because he had to drop off all these tuxedos because of this stupid event that all these people are going to. For
all these wives are dragging their husbands to for this women's rights movement, and he starts laughing. And then Maude says, "Ha ha ha ha! Ha, give me the dress." And she holds the dress up, and the buttons are gone.
The buttons are missing.
The buttons are gone. So she says, "All of the buttons are gone." And he goes, "Well, we don't." What did he say?
We're not responsible.
We're not responsible for any lost buttons.
Yeah.
And he goes, that'll be $2.50. And she goes, you don't expect me to pay $2.50 for all of these things.
Yeah.
He goes, I certainly do. Well, Maude goes, well, then all your buttons are missing. And pushes him out the door.
Slams the door.
Pushes him out the door.
And, when the last time he was there and got pushed out the door he wasn't the cleaner,
I think he was a grocer. He was a
right?
grocer.
He wasn't either. He was a grocer or something?
He was a grocer. Or he said something to Walter. He's just I saw you spitting out the window. No. Or was that somebody else? They do this really weird thing with this sitcom where they'll just get any character actor that they can, put them in for 2 seconds, and then force them to leave.
Yes.
And that was what Louis Gus did in this episode and subsequent episodes.
Was he the one who was he selling... He was selling something, and she picked and chose.
It wasn't tomatoes. Was that somebody else? Was that somebody else?
I don't remember now.
Neither
we have to check.
We must check the tape. We must check the tape.
Check the tape.
Check the tape.
Check the tape.
We are exhausted. We are pooped.
Well, you know what? We're just getting over New Year's Eve.
We are just getting over New Year's Eve.
And
everything.
So forgive us.
So,
if we're a little...
Yeah, we're a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Or at least Quaker Oats.
Or at least Quaker...
No, what was it?
At least Quaker Oats.
What was it? The box of... What was the ERA? The Emancipation Proclamation?
The Emancipation Proclamation was on the back of a box of Quaker Oats.
It was Quaker Oats.
It was Quaker Oats.
Okay.
So, Maude slams the door, and then I have written down, expect that from a woman.
That was the cleaner. No?
No, I don't think that was the... That may have been Arthur.
Oh, yes, he said they expect a woman to be late.
That's right. Maude said, because all the buttons are gone, how am I going to get to the... And that was when Arthur said, well, they expected a woman to be late. And Maude turns to him and goes, it's phrases like that lead people to believe the nonsense that they're pouring out. Just all very self-righteous.
Yes.
But I mean, I understand where Maude is coming from, especially as a 1970s liberated woman of a certain age.
Yes. I'm trying to remember what happened next. I do believe
it was the phone ringing
again, right?
And Maude picks up the phone saying, "Hello, Grace. I know Grace. I know Grace." And then she hands the phone off to Florida.
Yes.
And Florida goes, "I know Grace.
Yes.
I know Grace."
Yes.
So then, short story long, we come to find out that the will has a trustee, and it ties up Grace with she has no access to the money because it's tied to the trustee.
This is when we find out exactly what Grace's situation is, that when
and
Chubby's will had a trustee.
That Maude is in a similar predicament.
Yes.
Because, Maude is going on saying, "Not my Walter. My Walter trusts me to take care of the finances."
Yes.
Right, Walter?
And
Walter was making some faces. Walter was making some faces.
Yes.
And then Maude turns to Arthur, and then Maude turns to Walter and says, "Go on, tell him. Tell him, Walter."
Well, she says, "Who's the trustee?"
And then she turns and she goes, "All right, Walter, who's the trustee?" And Arthur giggles. Arthur giggles. And Maude, I just love the Arthur's facial expressions. They are timeless. They are elegant. They are beautiful. So she turns to Walter and says, "God's wife will get you for this."
That's right.
So...
And that's when she starts, "I'm not going!"
"Carol, Vivian, I am not going."
She says that, because she's not equal, that the marriage is not equal.
Yep.
They are the frauds.
We are the frauds of the
year.
year.
The frauds of the year. They're not the husband and wife of the year now.
Nixon, Agnew, Watergate. Nixon, Agnew, Watergate, then us.
Then the Findleys. And I believe it's about at that point that we have
a
the commercial break. And when we get back, everybody is
Everyone's
almost at the door.
Walter's
telling
talking
them all to go.
Yeah. And Arthur says, "Gee, I hate to see you like this, Arthur, because it'll be really sad to see you go. When you die, she's going to be hell to live with." Obviously, he's talking about Maude.
Yep.
So they all leave, and then...
Maude tells Walter to call the bank, Walter.
Call the bank, Walter. And Walter's like, "We don't... The bank doesn't have anything to do with this." And she goes, "No, the blood bank. You're going to need it." More spousal abuse comedy. It's what sold in the 70s.
Yes.
The next thing I have written down was, "Why are you trying to control my life from the grave?"
From the grave, yeah, that's what she's asking.
Because they get into this argument, and it's true.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It was 75 when a wife was able to have her own bank account. A wife was able to have her own checking account. Mm-hmm. That was in 1975. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think, was the one who spearheaded that movement to get women to have their own checking account and their own savings account. Mm-hmm. Because for the longest time, it was the men that controlled everything.
Oh, yeah.
We hate that for us. We hate that journey.
Yeah.
So...
And she's complaining.
She's complaining, and he's like, Walter's like, "I went over it with my lawyers. I don't understand it all, and I'm a man." Mm-hmm. Which really you should not have said to Maude. Right. You should not have said that to the woman that is Maude. Mm-hmm.
And Walter is saying how he was leaving her everything, and how Finley's appliances was so important to him
that he gets a little emotional. And he then proceeds to talk about open season for widows. And they're talking about Walter dying like tomorrow.
Right. But I like, though, the part where Maude said that she realizes Finley's friendly appliances is his claim to immortality, and that when he goes, she's going to have the neon sign repaired so that it doesn't say Findle's appliances. So in other words, if he cared so much about it, why has he not fixed the neon sign?
Let's assume the worst, Walter. You have passed away. And I make mad, passionate love to a younger, nubile man. Allow me to make my own mistakes, Walter.
Yes.
And now that I say it, please allow me to make my own mistakes.
Allow who will pick her clean.
Allow who will pick her clean, because that was please allow me to make my own mistakes.
Yes.
So, at that point, Maude is willing to listen to Walter, but she's only willing to listen to Walter if she wears earmuffs.
Yes.
If she wears earmuffs.
Which means she cannot listen to him.
Correct.
And she storms into the kitchen.
She says, well, she starts singing, everybody's talking at me.
I think that was Harry Nielsen.
I think so, too.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. So goes into the kitchen, and she's just like, Florida, I'm about to go into the living room and put on some new clothing to get ready for the evening. And I want you to make sure that you tell me whether or not I'm making the right decision by going without Walter. Nod yes for once, twice for no. And Florida was about to nod a second time, and Maude stopped her chin.
Stopped her.
And she said, thank you, Florida.
Yes.
You're going to be a great comfort to me in my old age when my hearing goes.
Yeah. Oh. And Florida says that she's in Screwball City.
Yep. That was what you said. Screwball City.
Oh, and Walter is continuing to yell at Maude.
Hasn't been peace in this house since Bobby Riggs blew it. And then there's talk about greasy-haired gigolos, which it's a little offensive for Italians, isn't it? Just a skosh. But that's writing in the 70s. They didn't care who they offended because at that time it wasn't that offensive. It was just a thing that was said. And now it's offensive because people are offended by it.
Yes.
And we try to be, politically correct in this atmosphere because it's just the right thing to do. It's right to speak eloquently about different people and different races and different things.
Very true. So, it was at this point she pulled the earmuffs off, right? And she was yelling at him.
And she storms up the stairs. And Walter's racing against her, and they're like screaming at each other. At that point,
Florida walks out of the kitchen with the flowers.
Yep.
And the doorbell rings.
And it's the party guests.
It's the Hausers and the other couple. I don't remember their names.
We'll just say the Cruptons.
Something like that.
Something
right?
Croutons, the Croutons,
Grousers,
the Grousers, something of that effect.
They were like superfluous, really.
Yes, they were incendiary characters, which is your SAT word for the day. Incendiary.
Yes. Not incendiary. That would be on fire. Would it be tertiary?
No, it would be incendiary.
Incendiary.
Would it be incendiary?
I don't think so. Incendiary is explosive.
Define incendiary.
I'm telling you.
Define incendiary.
Incendiary is explosive.
I don't believe you.
As an adjective, incendiary means of a device or attack designed to cause fire.
Noun, a person who stirs up conflict. That's also not who they are.
Not who they are. I'm telling you, they would
tend to stir up conflict. Very exciting. Oh Jesus!
I think they
Christmas.
would be. I think they would
superfluous.
Be superfluous or something like that. Extraneous.
I don't know why I always thought incendiary just meant non.
You never heard like of an incendiary device?
No.
Really?
I always heard.
You know what? I watch all these like CSI shows.
Of course you do.
And they always have like
big words
getting blown up by an incendiary device. Trust me on this, pussycat.
I do.
They weren't incendiary.
Siri just told me.
I know.
I have never felt more stupid in my entire life.
She'll take Siri's word before she takes her own mother's.
Leave me alone. Leave me be, old woman.
So they've come to pick up the husband and wife of the year. And meanwhile, they can hear them fighting upstairs. And they're saying...
Florida's like, she's getting ready to like tell about her acceptance speech. And she goes, Maude, you over here. If some greasy-head gigolo wants to pick me up, that's my business.
That's right. and Florida's trying to like come up with like...
excuses.
An excuse for like what they're hearing.
And she was so adorable.
Yes, she was.
So they come downstairs.
They don't come downstairs. They come to the
top of the stairs.
The middle of the stairs.
They come from the top of the stairs to the middle of the
stairs.
To
the middle of the stairs. And Walter's telling her if she wants to wear the pants in the family, then,
let him.
Then let her. And he
pulls his pants down.
He
pulls his pants down.
I really think Bill Macy was probably a naturist. I know, I'm serious.
I laugh, but it's potentially true. He did enjoy being naked on the show. He did not have a problem being nude in front of the camera.
And he did old Calcutta, which was nude on stage.
Yeah.
I really think he was a naturist.
Yes, I agree.
Which
So
nothing wrong with that.
Maude starts cackling.
Yes, yeah.
Because she turns to the company and she says, "You want to wear the pants in the you want to wear the pants in the relationship, Maude, here they are."
Yeah.
And if Maude goes, "If you think something, well then I have news for you." And Walter goes, "What?" And Maude goes, company's here.
Yes.
So she
Well, no,
starts...
she was laughing, and he said, "What's so funny?" She told him his bony knees.
A, Walter, your bony knees.
A was bony knees, and B was that the company was there.
Yes. So then they go upstairs because Maude was like, please
Well, Maude
excuse
tells him
me.
she doesn't want his pants or anything.
Anything. And this is
And
where it gets...
Florida was like, she said she feels bad that if she had known this was going to happen, she would have ironed his shorts.
I'd have done a better job of ironing his shorts. So...
Back up in the bedroom.
Back to the bedroom.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Back at the bedroom.
Maude tells him, I'm going and you're not. That she's going to accept the award for Wife of the Year. And she's like, she has to be beautiful tonight, and thank God.
Good Lord, I have such a terrific head start.
She has a terrific head start.
Such a wonderful head start.
Wonderful head start.
So, this is where the episode gets very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they're talking, and, Maude turns to Walter and says, why didn't I think of it before? It's so simple. Mm-hmm. Walter, I have decided I am not accepting your estate.
She is cutting herself out of
his
the
will.
Out of
Which
Findle's appliances.
I remember the first time I watched this, and I'm like, what a ballsy move. Mm-hmm. What an absolutely ballsy move. Mm-hmm. So Walter's like sputtering over himself, not knowing which way is up.
She tells him he can take his piece of the rock and jump in the lake.
You and Arthur can take your piece of the rock and jump in the lake with it.
She would rather be poor.
I don't want Findle's appliances.
Yes.
I'd rather be free and poor and struggling than be under anyone's control.
Right.
I am Maude Livingston Seagull. And she starts flapping her wings.
And I had to explain to you who Jonathan Livingston Seagull was. That was a book in the movie from the 70s about one of those sort of
essay books, guru guides,
sort of hippy dippy trippy kind of things. It was about a seagull, and
yes,
it was very it was so much of the time period, that kind of thing, like just being that whole sort of thing of being free and finding yourself. And
I am Maude Livingston Seagull.
Maude Livingston Seagull, and she flaps her wings and flies away.
I am free to make my own way. I am free to make my own choices. Yes. I am free, free, free.
Yes.
And Maude screams, Maude, sit.
Walter screams.
I said Maude screams.
You said Maude screams, but no, Walter screams.
Oh, my body is...
But not before she tells Walter that, like Bobby Rigby, he blew it.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. Just like Bobby Riggs, you blew it.
Yes. Well, actually, before she got to the seagull stuff, Walter was yelling that he was going to be humiliated. Like, how could
I'm not going to be the laughingstock of the cemetery.
He has to be the laughingstock of the cemetery because she's, like, refusing the estate and all this. And it's after the Maude Livingston Seagull that Walter pronounces, Maude, sit. And, of course, as she always does,
She sat.
But
what made me laugh was that she was fiddling with her nails, that like she was still flapping her wings, and she like held them under her arms, and then she was just like, well, she shrugged, and then she sat down.
Yes.
And at this point, we have a very sort of elegant Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck situation.
Yes.
Because, Walter's like, this is what I want for you. He
won't be made a laughingstock
at the cemetery.
You won't be made a fool of.
You're going to accept my estate, and you're going to take it, and you're going to like it. I'm giving you everything.
He says, I will get rid of the trust,
I will get rid of the trustee.
And but and he's not giving her a choice.
No choice.
He's getting rid of the trustees, and she has to accept the will and the estate.
Yep.
Yes. And
Maude haplessly turns to him and goes,
well, didn't she like get up?
She got up elegantly. She had her dress in her hand.
Mm-hmm. She walks to the bathroom
door, and she says,
turns
elegantly and says, what does she say?
She says, you win.
As usual.
As usual.
Folds the dress over her arms, and just the look.
Walter, at first, he's ecstatic. He's ecstatic because he's I
won!
won!
I win!
Won!
I've won
And
the
then
contest.
it's like a light bulb. It goes off on his head, and you realize he just gave Maude
Everything she wanted.
she wanted.
But the look on B's face, just like, you win, as
You win,
usual.
as usual.
Haplessly deadpan and just walks elegantly into the bathroom.
Have you ever been in that experience where you were able to manipulate the situation, where you had somebody thinking they won, but in reality, you got what it is that you really wanted, and you let them think you manipulated the situation.
I can honestly say, no.
No.
I have never been in a situation like that. I don't think of myself as a manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
I think of myself as someone who's just very I think of myself as someone who's just very emotionally aggressive, where I'm like, I am usually the straight man in these situations,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, you're going to do as I say, and that's that. Because, that was just my upbringing.
See, I've been in a few situations where I was...
Do tell, we have 20 minutes.
where I've been... Oh my God. I feel like we've been talking for hours.
We have been talking for hours.
God.
Larry. We have been talking for hours.
My God. This is probably going to be like our shortest podcast ever. We didn't really go on many tangents, but I will go on a tangent now.
I want you to go on a tangent.
Just for the sake of posterity.
For the frivolity of it all.
But I have been in a number of situations where I was dealing with somebody, and I call it giving them enough rope to hang themselves.
Yes.
Where I knew where the situation was headed, and I knew I could I sort of manipulated the situation, allowed this person to think that they were getting exactly what they wanted.
Yes.
When in reality, they were doing exactly what I wanted them to do.
Yes.
And I've had that experience a few times.
Care to divulge at least one?
I'm trying to think of like specifics. I'm trying to think of specifics.
Because it's literally one of those things where it's like, I do, you don't. I do, you don't. I don't, I do, I don't, and you don't.
Yes.
Like, just that sort of situation.
Yes.
Duck
season.
Yeah, wabbit season. Duck season. Wabbit season. Elmer season. Oh, it's so nice when those classic TV tropes just show themselves up in sitcoms.
I know.
But I'm honestly trying to think of any opportunity where I've been, a master manipulator, and I mean, I could honestly say that I'm not, because I always try to be very forthcoming and angelic and sweet and disarming.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
Who are you, and what have you done with my daughter?
What have you done with the real Tomcat?
But no, if I'm anything, I am aggressively honest.
Mm-hmm.
At least I try to be aggressively honest. There are times when I will, ease up on a subject because I know that they may or may not be going through something. There was one expression that really sticks out in my mind when it comes to these sort of situations. Like, don't argue with anity. You have no idea what they've been going through. You don't know what battles they're fighting. Mm-hmm. So I've learned to just sort of, be understanding of everyone's plight, understanding of what everyone goes through. Okay. Because it's true, you never know what someone's going through.
I did have a situation very recently where I knew something was going to happen. And I knew this other person was going to be very upset about it.
Okay.
And I knew the best way to sort of resolve the situation was to make the person who was going to be very upset feel that they were making the decision about what to do themselves.
See, I can never do that.
Oh, I was able to do it.
I can never do that.
I was able to do it.
Not for nothing, I'm going to be very honest. I do consider myself sometimes a bit of an emotional pushover. But that
You
doesn't...
wear your heart on your sleeve, pussycat.
I do. I wear my heart on my sleeve. But there are times when I will, like, you know, sort of look at a situation and be like, how can I allow this to work towards my advantage? And, you know, it really depends on how you want to look at a specific situation. And, you know, you can dissect everything. You can acknowledge everything. You can just go forth and so forth. But there are times when I will look at a situation and be like, is it worth sticking around? Is it worth distancing myself? Is it worth, you know, talking to somebody and having that conversation with them? Wow. This is getting quite deep, children.
Oh my goodness.
But when it comes to the art of manipulation, it's really about controlling your emotions.
Oh, yes.
It's really about controlling your emotions and not letting them see you crack, basically.
Never let them see you
cry.
sweat.
Never let them see you sweat. I always thought it was never let them see you cry.
Then never let them see you cry.
So
You know what I've always felt?
what have you always felt?
Well, not always, but this is what I've learned.
Yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
What I've learned is I will almost never let somebody know that they've like got me mad or upset me, because I always feel like if someone can see that they've gotten me mad or gotten me upset, I'm giving them power over me.
Yeah.
Like if you can like enrage me or make me cry, anything like that.
If they can make you feel a specific type of emotion.
Then you have power
over me. True.
And I refuse
To allow somebody to
allow
have
that.
that control over you.
I mean, inside.
And I mean, not for nothing. This episode does discuss control, because that's what having a trustee on your will does to a wife. It's all about controlling the women, which has been the thing that has been going on in Congress since the dawn of time. It's controlling women. It's controlling the lesser sex, and just no, just no.
Yeah. And as I was saying, like about myself,
Yes.
you know, I never want to let anybody, you know, like in my youth, I was very much like allow myself to, you know, show anger,
Yes.
and cry and
Yes.
all of these things, but I don't know, maybe I've just become harder, you know, or
you're
gotten
hard-hearted, Hannah.
gotten more of a thicker skin. You know,
Okay.
hopefully still supple.
Let's see. Hard-hearted Hannah. Let's think of one for Tony. Tough, tender Tony?
Tough, tender Tony.
No. Tender, tough, whatever. I see little balls of sunshine in a bag. Does this mean something? That's where I'm at right now, kids. That's exactly where I'm at right now.
But I think, you know, I've developed a much thicker skin, and I just refuse.
You're better for it. You're better for it.
I refuse to allow any, because I've been in I was in my youth a lot of situations where I allowed that, you know, and you know, people knew that, you know, they had that control over me, because they could, you know, either, you know, get me worked up, that I was angry or upset or anything like that.
Yep.
And now I just, you know, inside, you know, I may be like raging, like, you know, Zeus on the mountaintop throwing the lightning bolts.
Yes.
But on the inside, but on the outside, you will never see it.
No.
You would never know.
You don't want to show your emotions to someone that you know can manipulate the situation to their advantage. And a lot of that shows in these episodes of Maude, where it's like this constant, you know,
Isn't it funny though? Well, continue.
There's the movie, the play, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I would have loved to have seen B. Arthur in the role of,
The wife.
The wife, in the role of the wife. Because it's all about the game. It's all if you look at it from these two older people who were inviting this younger couple into their game, their manipulative game with each other.
Yes.
There was a reason that Elizabeth Taylor and Dick Burton divorced after that movie. They divorced shortly after wrapping that film because it was a very emotional movie for the both of them. I see Maude and Walter's relationship as sort of a comedy version of that dynamic, where it's the constant back and forth. It's the constant game of chess. So it's very interesting. And this episode was no different because you're seeing who's going to be checkmate first.
Right.
And just fascinating to me, just very fascinating.
And it, to me, it was interesting because we see Maude, initially when she finds out about the will, she's like, she's very emotional. She's yelling. She's screaming, and but then she turns it around, and she contains herself. She like pushes everything down, and then it's just like, no, it's okay. I don't want any of it. Keep, I don't want any of your will.
Because Maude maintained her composure, and she was just like, I've had time to think about it.
Yeah. And then it was, and then that's when, she totally manipulated Walter.
Yep.
By doing that.
Yep.
Where, as soon as.
But I mean, not for nothing, Walter gets his in the end anyway, and we'll get to that in just a moment.
Yes, because we haven't completely finished the episode.
So after they leave for the evening, they come back, and Maude enters in this beautiful blue cloak.
Yes.
And Walter turns on the light, and she goes, "I've never been so embarrassed in my life.
Was humiliated.
I've never been so humiliated in my life."
Humiliated.
And she turns to Walter, and Walter goes, "It was a joke. Like, what are you like? What's the matter?" And she goes, giving that speech at the dinner tonight, and
at the Ramrod.
At the Ramrod moon.
Ramrod, no less.
She goes, I believe she says, "Thanks for giving me the Husband of the Year award. With my wife, it ain't easy."
It's not easy, yeah.
And there's a big laugh.
Yes.
There's a big laugh, and Walter goes, "Maude, it was a joke."
Yes.
So Maude turns to Walter and goes, "It's a joke." And then they started going back and forth, which I found out they did a lot of in sitcoms years ago.
What?
Where they would have dialogue after the episode so that the video editors could cut it off.
Oh, they could,
and roll the credits.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
And
sure.
they did that a lot because it was like, you have all this extra airtime, so might as well take advantage of it.
Right.
I would like to know and listen to some of that bit of that dialogue afterwards.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you'll ever get that chance. I don't know.
It won't.
But what can I tell you? You got
your hummus, pussycat.
You got your hummus, pussycat. Don't push your luck.
Don't push your luck. Thank you for once again joining us for another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. If you would like to follow us, you can on Instagram at Findley's Friendly Appliances. You can follow this podcast on Facebook, where all podcasts are sold.
Sold?
Yes, sold.
They're sold?
You can follow us on Facebook at Findley. God'll Get You for That, Walter. On Facebook. Yes, so we thank you. They can email us at findlesappliances.com, at findleysfriendlyappliances.com.
Findley's Friendly Appliances.
At gmail.com. I love that you love trying to impersonate me.
Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
That is true. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. If you would like to follow me, you can at that Tomcat on all forms of social media. That's ThatTomCatt, because there's always tea to go around.
The tea is hot.
And where can they find you, my morsel?
They can find me at Toni Homeperm, and that's
Tony with an I.
Toni with an I, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, and please, my YouTube channel. I need subscribers.
Yes, more subscribers to the Toni Homeperm channel, please and thank you.
Thank you.
She reached her goal of 400.
I got over 400.
Over 400. Keep those likes coming. I need to ride on someone's coattails.
Yes, she does.
But we thank you, and you will hear us. You will hear us on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. Bye, guys.
Good night.